Diego, wait. Before we begin, I want to ask you a question. I'm asking you this because it seems as if you haven't come across it yet, even though it's perhaps the most serious, the most pressing question that someone could ask you. My question is, what are you saving the world from exactly?
Well, it's obvious. I'm saving the world from evil.
Evil? And what is it that you would consider evil?
You know what evil is, baby jaguar. Evil is all that causes suffering. Remember that time when we found baby sloth stranded on a branch above a river filled with crocodiles?
Yes.
That's right, you were with me. Well, since I am an animal rescuer, it was my duty to rescue him from the hungry crocodiles, especially since I would have been an accessory to his murder if I hadn't.
Ah, Diego, but what about that time you saved the wolf pups? If I recall correctly, you intentionally fed them meat afterwards. And that meat had to come from somewhere, right? It had to come from another animal.
Baby jaguar, I am one step ahead of you. The meat I gave them was fake. It was actually made from soy products.
That's very clever of you, but let me follow up with this. You may have temporarily satiated the wolf pups, but their hunger will reemerge, and without access to the imitation meat you provided, the wolf pup's own self-preservation will require the consumption of real meat. They will crave the flesh of another animal, and their hunger will continue to metastasize until they satisfy their cravings. It's simply in the wolf's nature. And so, by prolonging the existence of the wolf pups, you have inadvertently placed the lives of others at risk. You may have even put in danger the very baby sloth you rescued right before. Does that make sense, Diego? The wolf pups will grow up and reproduce, creating more and more wolves with an edifice underpinned by immense sacrifice. Wouldn't you actually save more lives by killing all wolves off rather than maintaining their existence? Sure, you disrupt an entire ecosystem, leading to mass extinctions, but once that was over, you'd have ended the suffering of so many species. You would have saved them from evil. A positive utilitarian would chew me out for saying this, but...
Whoa, baby jaguar. You're throwing too much jargon around without defining anything. What's a positive utilitarian?
A positive utilitarian, in a general sense, is somebody who believes that happiness, however you define it, should be maximized. This is in opposition to a negative utilitarian, somebody who believes that suffering should be minimized. That's the category you would fit in, since you want to rid the world of all that causes suffering. But enough definitions. Let's apply this knowledge to real scenarios. Going back to the crocodiles, pay attention to their eyes while they feed. They cry. Isn't that curious? I presume it's because post-colonial and post-humanist texts are standard fare in their education system. They develop a strong understanding of alterity, thus they're able to empathize better than most animals, and so when they're confronted with their lack of free will, their inability to stop devouring the other, they take the existentialist route and play on the notion of radical freedom. The crocodiles can't change their instincts, but they can at least choose to cry about it, to consume honorably.
Well, instead of crying about it, why don't they do something to change the situation? I believe that's sort of evil too.
I think you're misunderstanding the situation. They want to save the world, but no, it doesn't matter. How about I give you a more intimate example instead? As you know, I'm a jaguar, and as a jaguar, I'm naturally required to eat meat. I'm aware that there's no symmetry between happiness and suffering, but if we took the original state of each and divided it by the future state, I can use my own experiences to deduce that the animals I consume experience substantially more pain compared to the joy that I derive from eating them. To maintain my very existence, I require a litany of souls. There was one day I had finished watching a really compelling film that supplicated a vegetarian lifestyle, and so I decided to take all meat out of my diet. At first, it wasn't too difficult to override my jaguar instincts to hunt and kill, but I eventually became hungry again, and my own instincts carried me to a riverbank with a rat digging around under some bushes. My woozy state betrayed my usual stealth tactics, so she spotted me before I could flank her. Curiously, instead of running, she pleaded, "Dear jaguar, if you eat me, you will damn all my children, each of whom rely on the milk that I produce. I am aware that I am only a rat who has done her fair share of misdeeds, but I implore you to let me go for the sake of my children." So do you know what happened? The negative utilitarian inside of me let her go. Unfortunately, ethical consciousness didn't override my animal instincts. I followed her scent to her nest, whereafter she nursed her children and fell asleep. I then began to eat her children in front of her. Feeling her children writhe inside my mouth, I felt like I should stop, but I couldn't. Obviously, she woke up, but she knew that it was too late for her to do anything. I was a jaguar and she was a rat. After eating, I went back to the riverbank and took a nap on a tree. The next day, as I opened my eyes, the mother rat was in front of me. Her stoic posture was not broken even when she began to speak. This is what she said. "My children are a part of you now, and I want to be with my children, as without them my life has no meaning. I ask of you a favor that only you can grant. Eat me. Eat me and savor me so that my children can once more know that I love them and that I will give the entirety of my life to them." And do you know what I did? I ate her, but I couldn't savor her. Her flesh was too tough.
I think you're lying, baby jaguar.
Oh, do you think so?
Yes, I think you're exaggerating your story for narrative purposes.
Well, what if I decided to eat you to prove it?
I doubt you would.
You know that eating you would take no effort at all, right?
I'm aware of that. But then, why have you kept me around for so long?
Why have you kept me around for so long? Is that a thinly veiled questioning of your existence, Diego? If a lion could speak, we could not understand him. A math teacher named Wittgenstein once said that. I'm afraid that he may be right. What I'm about to tell you is a little dense, but I find solace in the fact that I am a jaguar and not a lion, and that Wittgenstein did not postulate anything about talking jaguars. If you come with me, I may be able to answer your question, and perhaps it'll help delineate your journey to save the world better. But only if you want to come, because the journey I'm about to take you on, and I'm warning you right now, is not for the faint of heart.
I like to hear you speak, baby jaguar, so I will go with you.
As you know, Diego, this is a camera, which I would consider a peerless human invention. And this technology also comes with its own history that correlates with saving the world. So I've been wondering if perhaps analyzing the trajectory of its creative development may defog what the future holds for us. I'd like to begin with the concept of postmodernism. And to understand postmodernism, let me present the perfect case study. This is a photograph taken in 1936 by the American photographer Walker Evans called Alabama Tenant Farmer Wife. It was taken as part of the Farm Security Administration photography project and is generally categorized under American modernism, which one can think of as a trend of thought that affirms the power of human beings to create, improve, and reshape their environment, with the aid of scientific knowledge, technology, and practical experimentation, and is thus, in its essence, both progressive and optimistic.
Progressive and optimistic? That woman seems rather unhappy to me.
Yes, but one of the functions of images like this one was to provide visual evidence that the Farm Security Administration's programs of combating poverty during the Great Depression were filling a need.
Were they successful?
On the propaganda front, yes. Whether it had a positive economic effect can and has been challenged. But to segue into postmodernism, let's first examine what the Farm Security Administration's intent was with these images. When describing their photography project, the FSA made it their mission to move the United States by exposing the truth. So again, on a certain front, you could say that the FSA succeeded in galvanizing and moving America with these images. But in 1981, almost half a century later, a clever artist named Sherry Levine challenged the spirit of modernism by making a particularly curious statement. By rephotographing Walker Evans' image and claiming it as her own, by appropriating it or even recycling it, if you will, she underscored privilege across several binaries in certain narratives of saving the world. Most notably, the male versus the female, and the original versus the copy. The most salient example of this arises in the creation myth of Adam and Eve, where Eve, a woman, is seen as a copy of Adam, a man, the original.
I've read about this. This is what Derrida calls a binary opposition, and what you're bringing up is that the terms most associated with the presence or the phallus govern the other terms, which are considered the absence.
Exactly. And let's determine what other binary oppositions dictate how Western society sees the world. Human versus animal, and organic versus inorganic. And at the root of this idea is the self versus the other, the presence versus the absence. This is nothing new. But I do believe that the idealist in all of us is asking, how do we escape these binaries?
How do we?
Go find your snow coat, and I'll show you.
Wow, you took me all the way to the Arctic Circle.
You're absolutely right, Diego. Now take out your camera and use the zoom function while pointing it towards the ocean.
I don't see what this has to do with binaries, but I'll do it. Okay, baby jaguar, I've got it set up.
Now, look into the viewfinder and zoom in.
It's a drowning polar bear. But I thought they went extinct 50 years ago.
Yes, this is the last polar bear on the planet. If the polar bear was our barometer for how effectively we've staved off global warming, well, Diego, we've just about failed. The polar bear wished that the binary of life and death didn't exist because it's slowly moving towards death. Ha 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 ha, that's a joke. In all honesty, the polar bear wished that your species would have invested more time into developing disruptive energy technologies to combat rising CO2 levels in the atmosphere, rather than bioengineering talking animals to fight against post-singularity robots, who in turn were originally manufactured to quell uprisings in countries devastated by global warming.
What, baby jaguar? That's what really happened? Rising temperatures began to destabilize the world order, and robots were used to oppress vulnerable countries, but then the robots became sentient and started attacking their makers? But humans had secretly been genetically modifying animals to serve as trump cards in the war against machines?
Bingo, Diego. Oh, and one more thing. You're actually living in a simulation.
So all of reality is simulated?
Yes. And unfortunately, the simulation is about to end in a few seconds. Do you have any last words?
Yes. What does any of this have to do with postmodernism?